Hey, everybody. Welcome to the channel that takes you deep inside the San Francisco 49ers. I am your host, Jack Hammer. This is the new and improved Inside the 49ers with Jack Hammer. If you saw the show on Friday with Larry Krueger, you'll get the reference there. Let's get into this today. The 49ers and the Cardinals going to be taking on each other here at Levi Stadium. The game kicks off at 1:25 Pacific time. We're going to break it all down. We're going to take a look at everything that goes into this game right now here on Inside the 49ers with Jack Hammer. I want to shout out a few folks over in the comment section. In particular, our guy Lucas Pesce. Lucas, member of the Toolbox, says, "Hey Jack, hey Lucas, good to have you on board. Would love to hear your comments, your questions on the game. Everybody else that's watching, let me hear your comments and questions as well. We'll get into it. Let's take a look at a couple of things really quick in this game for the 49ers. A couple of updates. We don't have a exact definitive right now when it comes to Deebo Samuel if he is going to play today, but according to Adam Schefter and the NFL insiders, they're all pointing to the fact that Deebo Samuel, there's a strong likelihood that he will play today for the 49ers. He's going to be out on the field here pretty soon, working out with the trainers and the coaching staff. Based on how that goes, that's when the 49ers will determine whether or not Deebo Samuel will be active today or not for the 49ers. It looks like right now, two players that won't be active, according to Adam Schefter, are wide receiver Jawan Jennings and running back Elijah Mitchell. Mitchell injuring his knee on Thursday in practice. So he missed practice on Thursday. He was listed as questionable for the game. Right now, he is trending towards being out. If Elijah Mitchell is not a part of the roster today, a part of the active team today, look for Ty Davis Price to finally get a chance to be active this season. He hasn't been the first 3 weeks, so he would be the player that steps up into that active role, making the 48-man roster for today's game. I think you would still have, obviously, Christian McCaffrey is going to be your starter, but I think J.P. Mason, Jordan Mason is the guy who steps up to be that backup. That's the role that he handled last year when it was those three while Mitchell was out for a while. And then you'll see Ty Davis Price getting a few snaps here and there. I think that's the way that'll play out. And then in terms of Jawan Jennings, he injured his shin in the game on Thursday night, and he's been dealing with that all week, didn't practice. He was listed as doubtful for the game, and it looks even more doubtful that he's going to play today. And that's partly when you look at the 49ers roster moves that they made yesterday. The team calling up wide receiver Willie Snead from the practice squad yesterday, so he is pulled up to the active roster for today's game. Just a standard elevation, not being elevated to the roster, but just a standard elevation there for Willie Snead. The team also elevating cornerback Kendall Sheffield. Sheffield, the 2019 fourth-round draft pick of the Atlanta Falcons. He'll get the call up today as well. Primarily looking for him to be on special teams. The 49ers are healthy in the secondary right now with Charvarius Ward and Deommodore Lenoir on the corners. Ambry Thomas has been dealing with some injuries. He might not be able to go, so Sheffield might be the backup replacing Ambry Thomas. That also would mean that we would see Isaiah Oliver in there today at nickel, which makes a lot of sense anyway. Oliver, a really good run-stopping nickel player. He's a bigger guy, does good in those kind of situations where you've got to be physical. So I could easily see Isaiah Oliver being the guy that slides in there. It doesn't look like Ambry Thomas will go today for the 49ers. So there's the update really quick on the status. We'll get a better idea here of where Deebo Samuel is shortly. I'll be going to the stadium. Hopefully, I don't think he's on the field quite yet. I'll be able to get a chance there as well. Real quick, a really good question here from Andrew. Let's hit this one. It says, Jack, how does the 49ers pass rush stack up against Arizona's pass blocking? Well, I think the 49ers have an advantage here. Arizona's pass blocking is good. This is an interesting matchup because I don't know quite how good Arizona's pass blocking really is. I think some of their pass blocking and how good they've looked at has to do with their scheme, very similar to that of the Philadelphia Eagles, right? Basically the same scheme in which they want to run a lot of quarterback read option, a lot of that kind of run game with play action passes off of that. And because of the need to read and react in that zone option scheme, that really slows down the pass rush, so that helps it out. Now, if the 49ers are able to get the Cardinals into third and long situations, I think that's definitely a positive for the 49ers, and that's where the 49ers will win when it comes to that pass rush. The 49ers, one of the best pass rushing units in the league, 79 total pressures through the first 3 weeks of the season. Those pressure, when I say 79 total pressures, that includes hurries, quarterback hits, and sacks. That is tracked by Pro Football Focus. So 79, they do a great job of getting out up the field, getting after the quarterback, making them have the move. The problem today, though, is because of the way that Arizona runs the ball. If it's not, they've got to get in them at 3rd and 6, 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6 situations. If they can do that, then that's when you get that pass rush going, and then also you're able to play a little bit tighter on the back end. And when you're playing a little bit tighter with the coverage, you start to get pressure. The quarterback has to hold the ball just long enough. Usually that pass rush can get there and really make some problems for the Arizona Cardinals. So I think that's the direction that we're going there. Their right tackle, the rookie right tackle for the Cardinals, was dinged up a little bit this week, but he's expected to play today. I don't think we won't see him, but again, look for really with the 49ers. You look at their strength in the pass rush. Obviously, Nick Bosa, he's number one, 15 total pressures on the season. Javon Hargrave, Javon Kinlaw, Eric Armstead. That's really where the meat and potatoes of this pass rush comes from, and then also that ability to. Because so much focus is on Nick Bosa, it allows other guys to be one-on-one, or if they have the double team, Hargrave or Kinlaw, then what that happens, or Armstead, what happens there is now you've got the ability for those free runners to come on the blitzes. That's why we've seen Fred Warner have some success there, and some of these other guys really having strong success with getting up the field in the blitz situation. So I think the biggest key for the 49ers today is really shutting down the run. So when you look at this game, for me, my marquee matchup to watch for today is Fred Warner versus James Conner. Shutting down James Conner puts the game on the right arm of Joshua Dobbs. That's what Arizona doesn't want to do. Arizona's quarterback has attempted only 82 passes. He's the fewest of any starting quarterback in the NFL. They really don't want him to have to throw the ball too many times. And so that's where stopping the run, shutting down James Conner comes into play. And it's not just Conner either. They do a lot of things in the run game, similar to the 49ers, similar to the Dolphins, similar to the Eagles, where they also have Rondale Moore, who is able to become a part of that run game. They like to use him on some of the sweeps and even on some of the quarterback reads, with him kind of coming around off of the edge to get some momentum before the read takes place. So you kind of have the read, and he's a secondary type of player. So that's a tough matchup. But I really, on this one, it's Fred Warner versus James Conner. You look at Conner, this is the guy that's a bruising runner who has rushed for 98 and 106 yards over the last 2 games, 98 yards last week against the Cowboys. Not very many carries in that game either to get to that number. He's a guy who has had success against the 49ers defense in the past. You look at the last time the Cardinals beat the 49ers, it was here at Levi Stadium back in 2021. It was a 31-17 win. In that game, Conner ran for 96 yards and 2 touchdowns on 21 carries. And then he also had another 77 yards on a touchdown on 5 receptions. So stopping James Conner, that really is the number one thing for the 49ers. And Steve Wilks, the defensive coordinator, said that as much when he was asked earlier this week about how Arizona, what allows Arizona to be so successful running the ball. He said that, I think number one, Conner runs the ball hard, very determined guy that makes a lot of people miss after contact. And that's it. That's where Fred Warner comes into play. He's going to have free shots. It's going to become one-on-one matchups. If that defensive line is doing what they're supposed to do, you're going to get one-on-one matchups between Fred Warner and James Conner in the run game. And Fred Warner's got to be able to bring him down at the point of attack, not allow him to run through and get big yardage after contact. So big game today for Fred Warner. That is my marquee matchup: Fred Warner versus James Conner. Fred Warner and James Conner. That's the big one today. Terrence Robinson says that he looks for San Francisco. 34-17 is his margin of victory today. That would mean that the 49ers would cover the spread, which is up to 14.5. There's Tommy Huxley in the house. He says, is it worth bringing DJ Jones back? No, the 49ers have their guys. They don't need a guy like DJ Jones. He's a nice player, but right now what they're getting from everybody else is really solid. I don't think they need to go out and get a DJ Jones. They got Javon Hargrave instead, and Javon Hargrave is a much better player than DJ Jones. So there you have it. That's the first part of it. Now, in terms of my pick, I'm looking at this game and I'm saying the 49ers, they've been dominant so far this season, and you watch them play. They're they've really dominated through 10 of the first 12 quarters of the season. The only portion of this season where they haven't dominated was that first half in Los Angeles. That was a tough one for them. The Rams were able to keep up with them. 17 points offensively. The 49ers scored 17 points as well to go in at halftime tied, but then they dominated the second half. And that's the only part that they haven't been able to dominate. Now, you look at the Arizona Cardinals, they're 1-2. People might look past them a little bit, but I don't think you should. You look at them, they're 1-2, like I said, but they've taken the lead into the fourth quarter in each of their first three games. Week 1 out in Washington, that was a pair of fumbles by Joshua Dobbs that led to Washington scores. That was their undoing late in that game. The following week, they were up 28-7 against the Giants in the second half, and then the offense just disappeared, and they generated only 48 yards of total offense over its final 4 possessions. And then the defense couldn't stop Daniel Jones. And we've seen what the 49ers defense did to Daniel Jones, right? And then on top of that, last week, Arizona finally putting it all together, not turning the ball over. They had the bruising running game. They ran over and through the Dallas Cowboys. And then they had a timely takeaway late on an interception of Dak Prescott in the end zone. And they come away with a 28-16 win, and you look at San Francisco, though, they're just on a different level when it comes to the talent that they have compared to any of those three teams that the Cardinals have faced so far. I think this game's going to be close early. You look at this game, the 49ers have scored on 10 of their 13 first half possessions. They've only punted the ball 3 times. The other 2 times that they didn't score were times when they got the ball with just a few seconds left in the half and they knelt down. So when the 49ers have tried to score in the first half of games this season, they've scored 10 out of 13 times. Now, the other side of the ball, the Cardinals have been very good at that as well. I think it's 11 of 15 is the number that I've seen for the Arizona Cardinals in terms of their ability to score on first half possessions. So this is a game, I think, early. It can be close. Unless the 49ers defense just completely shuts down the Cardinals, I think this is a close game throughout the first half. And then I see the 49ers pulling away in the second half, kind of like what we saw last week with the Giants, right? That was a close game until late in that game when they pulled away at the end. They were up at one point 20-12, got a big stop, got a field goal to go back up 23-12, and then a touchdown at the end to make it 30-12. But that was a closer game than the final score indicates, at least through the first 3 quarters in terms of what's on the scoreboard. The 49ers really had dominated that one on defense throughout. But I look at today's game. I don't think the 49ers are going to get to 30. They've done it 6 games in a row. I'm going to go just under that today. I'm saying 49ers 27, Cardinals 13. They won't cover the spread with that number, but it'll be close. And now we got the drummers behind us. I thought I beat them today. A couple other things to look at real quick. These are my 4 downs, my 4 keys to the game. They go along with that marquee matchup between Fred Warner and James Conner. When you look at the 49ers defense in this game, it's run, Joshua, run, right? Joshua Dobbs, a big running quarterback. They like to do that kind of stuff, just like you see with Jalen Hurts out in Philadelphia last week against Dallas. Dobbs broke a 44-yard run on a play action, on a scramble, excuse me. He got loose, but they still like to really use him in the run game. And if you look at it, a couple series after that scramble for a long run, you had Rondale Moore take an option 45 yards around the left side for a touchdown. So in this game, San Francisco's defense must be disciplined in its responsibilities against the option and make sure that they keep those rush lanes intact. Again, when they're rushing the quarterback, everybody kind of has a landmark, and as that quarterback moves around, that landmark shifts. But they've got to stay strong in their rush lanes so that they don't allow anywhere for Dobbs to break free and get off a long scramble. So that's a tough matchup, and because of that option, that really is one of the things that slows down your pass rush. And so we'll see how that works out. But the 49ers need to do a good job on first and second down so they can get that pass rush ramped up on third down. And like I mentioned earlier, if the 49ers can force Dobbs to beat them with his arm, I think this game is the 49ers going away. So that's my first one. You got to slow down Joshua Dobbs. You've got to be smart in your rush lanes. You've also got to be good with your responsibilities in the option as well. So we'll see if the 49ers can handle that today. I think it's going to be a good game for San Francisco in that regard. Just looking through really quick to see, we also got Fable in the house. It says, what's up, Jack? What's up, Fable? Good to have you on board. Good to have you in. I don't know how the games are going right now around the NFL. Saw a little bit of that coming in. It looks like the Eagles were down 14-7 when I was walking into the stadium. I don't know where we are right now in terms of that score. But if Washington could pull that one off, that'd be a big win for the 49ers. We'll see how that game goes. Another one man down. You know, the 49ers may be without starting wide receiver for the second consecutive game. Brock Purdy and the 49ers offense managed to put up 30 points last week against the Giants, despite not having Brandon Ayuk on that short week. Well, they get Brandon Ayuk back this week. We're not sure about Deebo Samuel right now. As I mentioned earlier, he's listed as questionable. He's going to try to go. He's going to be working out for the team here shortly on the field. If his knee is looking good, then he'll play. And, you know, that's the thing is, you know, talking to Deebo Samuel on Thursday, what he said on Thursday was that, you know, the ribs are not as much of an issue as the knee. The knee is more of an issue. So it's going to be a game time decision. We'll find out, like I said, here pretty shortly, I think, as to whether he's going to be a go. For sure, we'll know around 12:55. That's 90 minutes prior to the game. And that's when the 49ers have to announce their inactive list. The 49ers, though, last season, they went 3-0 without Deebo Samuel, and they still averaged nearly 30 points a game, just like it was 29.6 in the games without Deebo. They scored 21 up at Seattle, 37 against Washington, and 37 against the Raiders without Deebo Samuel last season. You know, if the more likely one is that we won't see Juwan Jennings. He missed practice all week with that injured shin. The 49ers, as I mentioned earlier, elevating Willie Snead. That's a sign that I think Jennings isn't going to be going. So this game, I think, is really going to ride a lot on Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, and Ronnie Bell having to step up. And we'll see about Deebo as well, and Brandon Ayuk coming back. And Brandon Ayuk was looking good in practice this week, even when he was wearing the blue jersey. You know, another one to take a look at is under pressure. You know, I put that down as one of my keys. Under pressure, Brock Purdy's faced pressure on 40.6% of his dropbacks this season. That's the 7th most in the NFL. Today, he's going to be facing an Arizona defense, which has been able to do a good job of putting pressure on quarterbacks without having to bring the blitz. 60% of the time that the opposing quarterbacks have dropped back against Arizona, they have been able to pressure the quarterback. That's the second highest total in the league, despite the fact that the Cardinals actually have the lowest blitz rate in the NFL. You know, and when you look at it, facing pressure isn't something that's been much of a problem with Brock Purdy in terms of when teams are bringing the blitz. He's done a really good job of beating the blitz. However, he's struggled when he's just faced pressure from, you know, without the blitz. When you've got four rushers, the defense is dropping back, eating up those throwing lanes. He's struggled in that area. He's completed just 48.6 of his passes when pressured. Remember, that's different from blitz. Blitzing and just having pressure, two separate things. Blitz is when you have an extra man coming. When they talk about the pressure, that's just a 4 or 3-man rush. You're getting pressure on the quarterback. And some of that, you know, part of the reason why it's 48.6 is because he's having to get out and he's throwing the ball away because there's nothing open downfield and so on. But still, if the Cardinals are able to generate that pass rush today, that could be something to really keep an eye on. And how does Brock Purdy fare in that? Because I don't think we're going to see a lot of blitzing. That's the way that the Cardinals have been so far this year. And so he's going to have to be precise with getting that ball off. One of the things, though, he may catch a little bit of a break because Jonathan Ledbetter is the Cardinals' best pass rusher in terms of generating pressures. He's generated 7 pressures, the most of any of the Cardinals defenders. And I say pressures, I'm talking, and that in this regard, I'm talking about hurries. Jonathan Ledbetter leads the Cardinals with 7 quarterback hurries. He is out for today. He has been ruled out with a finger injury. So that's going to help Brock Purdy out a little bit in terms of dealing with that pressure off the, you know, up the middle. Because even in the Cardinals scheme, it's the same defensive scheme as the Eagles. So their defensive ends are really kind of interior rushers. They're lined up on the tackle, but not outside of the tackle, if that makes sense. They're going to be rushing more up inside. And we see one of the things that I see on film when I watch Arizona is just like Philadelphia, they are not a team that wants to come out and worry about what's happening when it comes to they're not worried about really what's happening in the run game. They really attack up the field with those linemen and linebackers on the edges. They're tackling the run on the way to the quarterback. So again, I kind of like last year's game out in Philadelphia. I think this is one we're going to see a lot of quick throws early on. You may see some shots, but I think early on you take your time, work those underneath routes, really get after it in the run game. Arizona has not been very good there. So Brock Purdy, I think, is a big piece, obviously, but he's going to get some help today from the running game with the 49ers. Guys arguing over in the corner about Jim Everett. Chris Everett, right? Is it Chris Everett or Jim Everett? I don't remember. I remember being at Candlestick Park when Jim Everett, basically buried himself in the ground because he was afraid of a pass rush that was coming. That's for sure. Chili Maddox says, or Chillmatic, sorry, says, greetings from Georgia, Jack. Hey, Chillmatic, good to have you on board. It's awesome to have you here. Thank you for tuning in for the pregame show. Let's take a look really quick. One last thing as far as the keys to this game is the player of the month. Christian McCaffrey, named player of the NFC Offensive Player of the Month for September. McCaffrey's 353 rushing yards leads the NFL, as does his 9 runs of 10 or more yards. He's been very explosive on the ground. The 49ers offense as a whole has been very, very explosive, but Christian McCaffrey really helping them get there. On Sunday, today, he's going to be taking on an Arizona defense which allowed the 7th most rushing yards in the NFL through the first 3 weeks. Not only have they allowed the 7th most rushing yards, they've also allowed the 7th most yards per rushing attempt. Just last week against the Dallas Cowboys, Tony Pollard ran for 122 yards against these Cardinals, despite the Cowboys missing 3 starters along that offensive line. You might ask yourself, well, how did the Cowboys lose that game then? Well, Dak Prescott threw an interception in the end zone to take away 1 scoring opportunity. And again, Arizona does a good job of pressuring the quarterback, confusing the quarterback with the way that they get after you. Remember, Jonathan Gannon, a guy that doesn't like to pressure in terms of bringing extra guys. He wants to get to you with 4. He wants to make you beat the coverage on the back end, and they're showing that right now. But on the flip side of this, their run defense hasn't been very good. It hasn't been as good as Philadelphia was a year ago. The 49ers defense needs to come out and get some stops early. The 49ers offense needs to be able to get on track like they've been doing. Let this run game go. If you can get up by a score or 2, this really changes the complexion for San Francisco. But they can't let this be a close game throughout the first half. I think they really need to jump on it and get going. And I would expect a big day today for Christian McCaffrey. As I said, I'm looking at a final score of 49ers 27 to 49ers 27, Cardinals 13. I think that's the final. Again, I think it's going to be tight early on. I would say the 49ers are probably going to take a 3-point lead into the half and then come out in the second half and be able to pull away in this game. Again, both teams very good with scoring in the first half. The 49ers have scored on 10 of 13 possessions, 10 of 15 when you include the kneel downs. The Cardinals 11 of 15. So these are 2 very good first half offenses. So which defense is going to come out and have the most success? I think that's going to really tell us a lot about this game. And I think the 49ers are going to be able to find some success here. And we'll see what happens. Deebo Samuel, like I said, we'll find out soon if he's able to go today. I'm going to head in here in just a second. I'll be go check it out and see if I can find out what's going on with Deebo Samuel. But again, the keys to the game, the marquee matchup for you, number 1, Fred Warner versus James Conner. That's got to be the number 1 matchup for the 49ers. If Fred Warner and this defense shuts down James Conner, then that puts the game on the right shoulder of Joshua Dobbs. I don't think that's a winning proposition for the Cardinals. The 49ers just have too much in terms of their pass rush. If they can slow them down and get them into 3rd and longs where they can pin their ears back and get after the quarterback, I think the 49ers find some success there. And then, again, the running game, really a big piece of this today for the 49ers, Christian McCaffrey and how well he runs. You don't have Elijah Mitchell. That hasn't really been that big of a deal because he didn't even get any carries in the game 2 weeks ago down in Los Angeles. So I'm looking at this as a game where you get a big day out of Christian McCaffrey, Jordan Mason, a nice back off the bench, and then Ty Davis Price might get a carry or 2 here and there depending on how far ahead the 49ers get. Final score 27-13 is my prediction. Take it for what it's worth. Hey, thank you all so much for tuning in. If you guys can do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already subscribed, and then make sure you turn your notifications on because I promise you're not going to want to miss any of the updates right here on Inside the 49ers with Jack Hammer. I'm going to head into the game. I will be back, though, afterwards with our post-game show. As this game goes along, write down some notes. Write down some things that you want to talk about. Write down some questions. I'd be more than happy to answer all those after the game on that post-game show. Just make sure you're here. Keep your notifications on so you don't miss it. Like, subscribe, turn on those notifications. Have a great day watching football, guys and ladies, and we will be back soon. Take care, everybody. Have a great rest of your Sunday. We'll see you tonight after the game. Take